Roll it, Johnny.
I think that's the best one of like the opening songs. I really like the momentum of that one. It gets me jacked when I hit it. Kind of reminds me of like a Pennywise, like
Mm.
a little heavier, but yeah, I really dig that one. But hey, what is up, party people in the
What's
place to
up?
be? This is a brand new episode of the Pink Buzz, and we are doing a holiday episode on accident. Like it was my fault that we went today. We were actually going to do this episode on Sunday, and I was like, "Nah, Joe, let's do it Tuesday." I completely blanked out that it was going to be Memorial Day. But the only problem with that is like the sun's going down, and I live in a very patriotic state, so like there'll be people out shooting guns, so that we might hear that in the future. I just want to like give a warning that like I'm not being swatted. It's just the 4th of July.
The American Scream's going to be out in force tonight.
Yeah, the American Screaming. Yeah, funny enough, we actually picked some very patriotic books for y'all too. Just being ironic, but yeah.
Yeah, I was reading it and I'm like, actually, we're going to be talking about like especially Shade, right? I mean, as in, we're going to be talking about this one on July 4th, which it kind of makes a theme, right? And I mean, very fitting for today's climate, like social and economical and political climate. Like Shade definitely is probably even more relevant today than it was when it came out. But we'll get into that once we get into the Peter Milligan, the good stuff. But first, as usual, right, Johnny? We usually do a little check-in if we have stuff, and I think we both have a check-in this time around.
Happy Dependency Day, and
yeah,
where the Ramparts Are Screaming on Netflix. Yeah, maybe you might even be able to catch the Woody Harrelson movie Rampart. It might be on there, which I mean, it's an all right. It's another movie kind of about what we're going to be talking about, corrupt cops. But yeah, like we'll get into that later. Joey, as you were talking about the illustrious check-in, what do you got for us?
Check in. I read just a few books because I had a lot on my plate to read for the show. So this was a book I picked up a while back. We are Scarlet Twilight.
On the Warp Tour right now, like they're
yeah. So it's kind of a throwback, kind of a wink at like old style comics and heroes, and it kind of makes fun of it, almost like a parody of like old hero comics and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It has a few little twists in it, and a little undecided. I got the second issue. I just picked it up this week, but I read this one during the week last week. So
that art is kind of reminiscent of Howard Chaykian books from the late 80s and 90s, kind of the era we're going to be talking about. His kind of
yeah, it's Benjamin Morris is the artist, and it's a beautiful, like the art in it is super nice. I mean, it's good stuff. Right, it's a beautiful book.
Is it a Captain America kind of? Is what I get from it, or
yeah? Well, it makes it out to seem like that, but he ends up being not quite Captain American-ish.
Well, yeah. I mean, like you can't just tell that story. You gotta deconstruct it a little bit now.
Yeah, it's definitely deconstructed. Yeah. So it definitely took a few twists that I was like, oh shit, okay. Like I wasn't expecting that at all. So we'll see. I'll read the second one and see. Another one I read was finally got around to reading last week. You've Been Cancelled, #1, and I really enjoyed this. This is from Kurt Pyers and Kevin Castanero. He was the artist on one of my favorite books from 2019, Grit. I loved that book, and I loved his art in that, and like, so he's the artist on this one, and just fun stuff.
I'm kind of doing some like X-Force type stuff, kind of.
It's
vibes from dude.
Kind of basically what it is it kind of makes me think of what's that book from Sabella where people can get together and put a hit out on someone. Crowded. It's kind of got the same idea as Crowded, where everyone goes online, and if you get canceled, they put you in this arena and you get hunted by these bounty hunters. So it's kind of like Running Man mixed in with like Crowded a little bit. So everyone on social media, if you get canceled, then you get, you become the hunted, and like there's a bunch of different ones, and there's rankings, and they go.
It's kind of a metaphor for what actually happens to you online. So
that's
funny. You got
to so it's fun.
The gladiators that come after you online.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of clever. I like that.
It's fun. It's really fun. Someone told me it was based on a video game, though. I don't know if that's true. I'd have to go check. I thought I read that somewhere, but
it would say on the cover there would be like a logo for probably like Naughty Dog or something, or whoever put it out.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
If it was, I don't know if Mad Cave messes around with licenses yet. I think that they're still just trying to. I mean, like they got a pretty good foundation going, but like I don't know if they're willing enough to.
I don't know if that's actually accurate. Or maybe
it's a micro, one of those ones that a guy made himself and he put it on Kickstarter type of game.
Could be. Anyway, I'm not sure, but maybe there is like they were talking about multiple things, and I saw that and just thought maybe that was what they were talking about. They were talking about something else, but it was fun. It was really fun. It's it's pretty fast paced. It's got some good action, pretty violent. It's got some sex. It's got a little bit of everything in there. It's fun. I really enjoyed that one. And then you have The Feeder. This one I'll have to read the second one to know how I feel about it. The first one was all right. It's like a washed up actor who's now more or less a henchman for this other guy doing like these little hits, or like what do you call them? Someone who collects for like a loan shark type thing. And he's going around doing shit like that. The art's not bad.
It's a lot better than the cover.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the cover. It's kind of. I didn't think I'd pick this cover for the issue. I thought I picked the original cover. So I don't know. Maybe I marked it wrong in the book or something, and I got this cover instead. But the art's pretty good. I mean, you get. I mean.
No, I actually like the interior art. That's really nice.
It's really stylized, so yeah, kind of makes me think a little bit reminiscent of Red Mother, the art in it. Like
Danny Lockhart, are you sure? Like I mean,
a little bit. I mean, not big time, but it gives off those kind of like it's super clean, super like not heavy shading. A lot of like the line work is very apparent, so. Yeah, and that's a Sumerian book, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and the other one was Mad Cave, and the one before that was a Red 5 book, the We Are Scarlet. Yeah, so those are the three I got around to reading. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Didn't really watch anything or movie-wise or show-wise this week. It's been kind of a busy week, so yeah.
I picked up a few things but didn't read them yet. I got City Boy, and we talked about that on L's show, and like I said I'd cop it, so I did. I got the first 2 issues, and I got the Ram V book. It's called The Vigil. Looks kind of rad. It's another one of those DC. We are the whatever that new initiative they have going on for the
Asian thing.
Yeah, so I picked those up. I also got the new the trade paperback for the new White Knight, but I didn't read that yet. Mm-hmm. The one thing I did pick up and read that I really enjoyed and kind of reminded me a bit of Shade was Simeon Kurdansky's Something Epic. Oh man, is this just a really fun, really cute, just beautifully drawn book. I mean, the art is gorgeous. Mr. Kurdansky, chef's kisses, dog. Like,
yeah. See, we talked on Saturday night, and you were talking about it. So when I went to it wasn't on my poll. So when I picked up my books on Monday, or was it yesterday? Did I go yesterday? I went yesterday. Yesterday's Monday. See, I'm all fucked up in my days. Because we had Canada Day last weekend, so I had Monday off, yesterday off. And because you were talking about it, I went and picked up issue 1 and 2. So I've got issues 1 and 2, and I'm gonna hit those.
It's a lot of fun, man. Like I like stuff that plays with the idea of imagination and being able to, like, pull stuff out of it, and It's always a good time, and especially the way like it's rendered in this book with all the different kind of art styles that he uses for the characters and stuff. Because, like I said, it has to do with imagination. So you'll have like straight cartoon looking people, yeah, very realistic, and like just video game looking characters. So like, and he renders all of them very, very wonderfully. Like it's a lot of fun, and I highly recommend checking it out. And then I supported the Patreon of my hero, one of my favorite comic book artists, one Mr. Farrell Dalrymple, and I got to read the first issue of his Robot Todd series that'll be coming out on Image at some point when he is finished with it. And I gotta say, man, it's a lot of fun. His art just keeps getting better and better, especially in his coloring. Like this book is just so lush and vivid. It if you're not into his stuff, this one might not be like the best one to try to jump into his work with, because in my opinion, like to get where this one's going, you have to have a working understanding of the Rinchi's universe, and at least we will all hurt, or it will all hurt, because this one kind of jumps right into the fantasy realm that he set up with that, without like any real kind of. Usually, he kind of has a human character to kind of introduce you, but like this one, it does start straight out with just like his kind of weird fantasy characters, and just starts the adventure right off. I love that it starts right off the bat, but I'm just saying it might be jarring for new people to his work, especially the particular universe of his. So, like, I would say definitely check it out though. I mean, $2 for his Patreon, and his artwork's glorious, and he's constantly showing you what he's working on. He puts up little videos and does his artwork. There's also a couple other PDFs that he has up. He has the Robot Todd alphabet book that he did in 2020, which is really cute, and then he's got a sketchbook, his sketch a day thing that he did in 2020. And man, some of the stuff in there is just so gnarly. I just love his imagination and his weird like anthropomorphic characters. And then he also always has these characters that have other characters like growing out of their head. And he's very creative. He's very imaginative. He draws a lot of stuff that I've never really seen before. Plus, he's got like his writing's kind of twisted, but he's got this really wholesome, like Norman Rockwell-esque art style to him. So it's kind of unassuming. You're not expecting like the darkness to creep in when it does. So like I really appreciate his work a lot. So I highly recommend, definitely, if you have never heard of Mr. Dalrymple, give him a look. He's a genius in my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, you've mentioned him a few times before.
Yeah, he's one of my all-time favorites, but he's kind of unknown, so I don't get to talk about him too much. But I'm kind of hoping to change that. Like didn't we talk about maybe doing a Pop Gun War episode in the future?
Yeah, that we brought that up when we were talking about him and Graham. What's his name?
Yeah, Brandon Graham.
Brandon Graham. Yeah, you said they were both in that pop.
Yeah, the Meat House Collective.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
With the Honecker brothers and Meredith McCurdy and a bunch of really cool people.
Yeah, I heard it's supposed to be a really fun read too. I don't know anyone that's read that said it wasn't a fun read. So,
but yeah, man, we got Peter goddamn Milligan, the underrated god of comics in my opinion. This guy does not get enough credit because like he writes just such good, solid work, and always has in my opinion. Like even when I go back to his kind of unknown British stuff, like I guess Eclipse Comics put out a lot of it in the United States in the late 80s, stuff like Paradox and Freakwave and stuff, and the graphic novel Skin, which we're not going to be talking about today. But I'm just going to say that like he's always been a writer that like does have a silly side, but at the same, like a lot of the British guys do, but at the same time he has this super seriousness to him where he tries to tear your heart out anytime he can, and like he's got this really nihilistic twinge to his writing where he can just go super dark on you and just kill your soul in the most wonderful way, though. Like, I always appreciate when he goes there because, like, we're going to be talking about up first. We're going to be talking about, in chronological order, we're going to be talking about Shade, the Changing Man, which he did in 1990 with Chris Bachalo. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that, but I
think it's Bachalo. I would think, yeah.
With wonderful inking by Mark Pennington. There's also some other guest artists in there. Like I know Brendan McCarthy. Like I don't know if it's in the first arc, but I know he definitely does an issue towards the end of the American Scream run. And I think Duncan Fegredo does some work in there. So there's a couple other Vertigo guys that pop up and kind of work on the book as well. But you get these just beautiful, just wonderful surrealistic covers by Brendan McCarthy.
Yeah, the covers are. I don't think there's a bad cover in the bunch. Like, I mean, all the covers for this series are amazing.
And then after McCarthy, you get Jamie Hewlett, which is also just as amazing in my opinion. So, yeah, this book is just always just gorgeous to look at. But you saw what I was saying, right, Joe? Like the first arc, you really get some interesting, neat art. But like as the book, as you go into the second arc, you really see the creative team come together and really start trusting each other and really come up with some really, really neat coloring schemes. Like,
but I think because, like you said, it's such a surreal book that to get into that groove and get the feel, you know, like the look, the aesthetic, you know, you can see they're kind of feeling their way through, like you had said in the first volume, and then they really nailed it. Like kind of near the end of the first volume, the first trade, then you see by the end of it that it's starting to come together, and then the second volume is just so many great stories in that second volume. And I like how there's the one overreaching story of the American Scream. Then you get like a lot of these, like all the stories are kind of broken down into these little mini stories within the one overreaching arc, and it's always like a two-parters, right?
Yeah, maybe 3 issues at the most.
Yeah, so I like that. It's kind of cool. It's all like these little, yeah. I like the way they broke it up like that.
So, Shade, the Changing Man, is basically about this interdimensional kind of policeman who's supposed to his dimension is really close to ours, to the point where like our basic feelings and emotions bleed over to theirs and can cause their world to be in turmoil. So there's the madness of our Earth is kind of infecting theirs. So Shade is sent to us to try to stow the madness in his own way. And he has the M vest, which is the madness vest, and he's from a place called Meta. And but like that is not how you get told the story. You basically get told the story through Kathy, who is the survivor of a serial killer. Her mother and father were murdered while her and her boyfriend were coming to visit, and her boyfriend, who is a man of color, was fighting off the killer, gets shot by the police that were called to come in. So it's a very, like we said, very of the time book. Like it might even be more relevant nowadays. So I remember this book came out when I was 8, but I didn't actually read it then. I don't remember when the trades first came out for this. I would say somewhere around like 2004. But like even at that time when I read this, I was like, oh, the cops wouldn't do that. Like I think Pete's being a little hyperbolic, being a little extra mean, but like I don't have that opinion anymore. You know,
no.
It's kind of weird how like you didn't pay attention to certain things when you were younger. Is kind of my point. Like now that I'm older, now that you have such a focus on it, you're just like, God damn, he underplayed it a little bit in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think with social media, it kind of puts a lot of these issues right at the forefront. So it's more hot button than maybe it was back in the 90s, because unless you're staying in the news cycle, right, you probably would miss something and then you wouldn't really hear about it. But now because of social media, it's constantly in your face. So I think that's why maybe, you know, it feels more relevant maybe today than it could have back then.
Well, yeah, basically like the unrest of America has caused this specter that's threatening like all the kind of multiverse, called the American Scream. And that's basically Shade's original villain here. Oh, but wait. I missed the most important part. Let me back up a little bit. I'm sorry to be so scatterbrained, but our girl Kathy, her the serial killer killed her parents, is on death row. And basically, since his life was forfeit, Shade's people decided to put his body into the killer, Troy Grinzer. And basically, he gets this really amazing scene where like just the electric chair comes to life and like kind of comes out of the dude's head. But like, yeah, basically Shade is the body of this monster, but like Kathy comes to become its best friend, its only link to Earth, which is kind of like a really neat setup for a friendship and like a dynamic. I really like the way that like
Mhm.
I never thought of that story dynamic before reading this, and I had read other Vertigo books and other challenging things, but I never thought of like what if you made it like a murderer, like not the murderer anymore, and had to make the one of the victims its friend. And I really like the way Peter Milligan played with that idea, and I think that it's not done in a silly way, but it's not done in an overly dramatic way either. I
Yeah,
think he found a nice balance to really tell this
yeah,
kind of hard hitting, just brutal story because our poor girl Kathy, she's kind of an alcoholic because of all this, and like that's kind of a really neat trip we take during this book too. Her because it's not just Shade's journey. Like we really see this book through Kathy. At least the first run, like the American Scream run, is kind of told through Kathy, in my opinion.
I think he splits it up pretty evenly, like the points of view. Like you get a lot of her point of view and a lot of his, and he creates, like in the beginning, Kathy, like you said, he takes over the body of the serial killer that kills her parents. So in the beginning, she meets up with him to try to kill him, right? And that's how they kind of meet, because he escapes or gets, whatever it is. So then she wants to go kill him, and then because of the madness, the M vest, basically, it's got a power that kind of, it's like a disease that spreads, and it goes into people's minds and takes like their darkest thoughts and feelings and makes this a reality within the world. So then, like, Shade's going around trying to defeat or change these people's minds to get rid of these manifestations that are created by this vest he's wearing. And it creates, like Johnny showed the picture before, like there's great panels, like these really surreal, fucked up, like almost nightmarish kind of scenes. I mean, it must have been wild to draw this book, because there's so many scenes, and like nothing's off the table, because it's basically all these things are created from any single person's imagination. That's where you get all these little mini stories within the overreaching story of the American Scream. And the American Scream like feeds off all these negative, uh, I wouldn't say feelings, but viewpoints that people have, or prejudices, or So then, like, Shade and Kathy become a team and trying to control the madness that's created from Shade showing up in our world.
Yeah, because he really doesn't understand anything, so she kind of has to explain the context. Because the very first thing that they have to face is this conspiracy theorist nut job who's writing this book about the Kennedy assassination, and the American Scream kind of gives him like this godlike power, and like it causes this giant JFK head to come out in Texas and start eating cops, and like Kathy has to explain to him like who Kennedy was, what the Warren Commission did, and like you go through this really neat journey with Shade, and it's not just that though. You get to see like a hippie get his ultimate power, and like how
Yeah,
I love that particular arc because
yeah, that one was cool.
Shade was actually like, well, this guy, his thing could have worked. He had this wonderful paradise thought out, but it was only a paradise to him because inside the paradise, Shade ran into a couple gay guys
Man,
who
yeah.
were like, this guy is a straight dude, so like his version of paradise doesn't include us, so we're stuck in this kind of like looking at these hot chicks when
Where, yeah, the every girl likes you commune. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's and like you said, that's the story that kicks off, or actually the second story of the second volume. And there's some great panels in there. The art, like, that's where you really start to see the art really take off in that story. And like you said, great. Like, what was the hippie's name again?
oh man,
I can't remember his name, but anyway, like, and he thinks, right, until he seems super cool, like you said, till all of a sudden you have like a differing opinion. Then it's like,
and then the acid trip turns bad. And
yeah, that's it. The acid, yeah, yeah, yeah. See, that's the hippie there when he starts losing his shit. Yeah, there's some great panels in there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second arc is also where we get introduced to like kind of the third character and my favorite character of the book. I absolutely love Linny. Like she is completely insane. She is a rich debutante who has the world at her fingertips, but likes to rob like just random people. And when she doesn't feel like robbing, she'll just like be a random kleptomaniac.
Mhm.
She kind of centers both Kathy and Shade when they both kind of get weird out there because it's neat. In a way, this book, at least the American Scream portion, really reminds me of Preacher, and in a way, Linny is the Cassidy vampire character to the to Shade's Jesse and Kathy's Tulip. Even though Kathy's way cooler than Tulip ever was. Like,
yeah. Oh, and this, like you said, Preacher. I mean, you get a little bit of like that. Also, like a little Sandman kind of vibes to it. It's definitely a book that's a '90s book, right? Early '90s. It gives off like it definitely fits right in. It's a book of its time. It definitely reflects the same kind of flavors a lot of those other books did, like you said, like Preacher, maybe a little bit Sandman with the surreal stuff. Like I mean, and if you enjoy all that stuff, then you'll definitely dig this one for sure.
and definitely got all the surrealism from Doom Patrol as well.
Doom Patrol, yeah, that's another one that it gave me a lot of vibes of Doom Patrol as well. Yeah,
I think they both started running at the same time though. Like it's kind of funny because they both play with the same subject matter but in different ways. Because Doom Patrol had a lot of fun with conspiracy theories, especially the Kennedy stuff as well. So like if you like that kind of stuff, I highly recommend checking out both these books because.
And I appreciate Peter Milligan kind of moving on from the whole serial killer thing, like the Granger thing. Like that kind of gets settled in the first volume, and then like his hair starts to grow out. He gets like that jacket, so he gets his look. So you're not looking at him as a serial killer anymore, and he didn't dwell on it, and it's not something that like by the second volume, it's not really much of an issue anymore. I don't know if it comes back later on, but I like the way he just kind of not moved on, but kind of put it on the back burner, or
it's
resolved it.
It's only an issue to him. It doesn't come back up after. Did you see when Linny goes into his head and kind of helps him come to terms with the fact that like, Gringer's problems are his problems, even though they share a head. Like his problems.
Yeah,
Jade.
I think because in the second volume, I think I'm missing. I didn't get to read the final issue, I think.
Okay.
So I probably didn't read that yet. Yeah. Yeah. But I read up to the it was a great story. The normalcy snatchers. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's another one that I really kind of went in on the police hard, man, because it's about about a sheriff's deputy who just
and man,
they're acting strange because
they're not normal. They're acting strange. They don't fit into my view of what normal is. So we have to either first he starts killing them.
Yeah.
Then he remembers the machine in the basement to fix people, to make them normal. And man, is that not extremely relevant today with everything that's going on in the Supreme Courts and all that stuff? You know, like people trying to force their views of what normal is on other people and how they should live. Like, I mean, it's definitely
like it makes me kind of want to take a time machine and go back to 1990 because, like, of course, like that was the end of the Reagan years. I think, H.W. Bush was president. I was a little kid at the time, you know what I mean? Like, but I'm like looking at it, I'm like, was it actually as weird as it was now? Because like I'm looking at this book and like just how weird everything in America is going. I wouldn't be surprised if like this book was real, you know what I mean? And like one day a giant Kennedy head would bust out of the ground in Texas and start eating cops, asking who killed me, you know what I mean? Like at this point, like the hell world we live in is weird enough to like the shit in this book could actually start happening. And you know,
Yeah, it makes it seem less weird. Like, you know what I mean? It seems less fiction and more reality.
yeah, because like even conspiracy theory nuts are worse nowadays than they were, at least
Yeah,
as far as I can
because they
tell.
have they have like Twitter to feed each other their theories and work it through. Like they're not just isolated, sitting in a room in the dark by themselves.
Well, more
They're
than Twitter, they
connecting
got like
with they're
4chan,
connecting with
Reddit, they got
yeah, they're connecting with hundreds of thousands of people now, and all these people with these kind of views have more access to people with similar views, and they kind of reinforce like, and then they block, like now with the beauty of social media, you don't agree with someone, you just block them. Oh, I'm not going to have a discussion. I'm not going to debate the way I feel. I'm right, you're wrong, block. There's no more discussion, right? There's no, so I mean, yeah, it just compounds like people's the way people feel or think, you know, that they're now open to new ideas from any angle, you know. So yeah, so it really, like this book I thought it really hit home, especially for the climate we're in today.
and you can read the first 3 trade paperbacks for free, right,
On
on
Kindle. Yeah.
Kindle. So like that is a killer offer, and I can't recommend it highly enough, because I think the trades are out of print at the moment, which is sad because this is a book people should be reading right now. I mean, it's very, very relevant.
And I mean, if you got a good comic shop, I think they're pretty easy to find, and not there. It's fairly inexpensive if you want to pick up the floppies. I picked them up through this shop I buy quite a bit of stuff from, the Comic Hunter in PI, and that's where I picked up the first 6 issues in floppy form. So I have the first 6 issues in floppies, and he had the whole the first arc, the first run, and it was fairly affordable. Like, I mean, maybe they go what, like a lot of these issues you might find in the dollar bins even, or like cheap, like cover price, you know.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, sadly, I mean, like the series ran 70 issues. Like it had a good life and it had a good readership, but it's just one that doesn't stay on the tip of the brain of the zeitgeist for some reason. And it's a shame because, like, in my opinion, it really does deserve to have that same recognition as Sandman, as Doom Patrol. Like it's sadly like on the Animal Man scale of like great books that are just kind of forgotten over time, which is tragic because like even the Shade the Changing Woman book that Young Animal put out not too long ago was really cool. I mean, it was a fun kind of evolution of this idea. And yeah, I kind of wish Shade would get more play because, like, aside from that Young Animal book, I think the only other kind of modern thing I saw him in was he was in the first couple arcs of Justice League Dark, and that was because Pete Milligan wrote that himself. So, like, damn, Petey's the only person trying to keep Shade alive, kind of.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember you had mentioned it a few times before, so I picked up the floppies, and I think I read the first couple issues a while back, and then we're trying to figure out what could we talk about, like, and we never really talked about very many of his books. I think we might have talked about one of his other books, the AW.
Yeah, we talked about American Ronin. I think I talked about Human Target, and I never shut up about his book Enigma. I think it's one of the greatest comics ever written.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, let's do it. And Ecstatics is on my list of books I've been wanting to read. So I was like, oh, we'll do a Peter Milligan episode. And you were like, fuck yeah. So that's how we got here. And
first mini. We're going to kind of spread them out, though. We're not going to do Morrison, but the Morrison month. But yeah, we're going to definitely get more into more PD. But yeah, I figured this would be a good place to start. You know, like I'd say like nice surface level books that are kind of easy to get into of his. And, you know, one of his, I mean, he'd already put out so much work at this time, but like in a way, Shade the Changing Man, you could call one of his really early works.
Yeah, I mean, it came out in the 90s, right? So early 90s.
I think it was his first big American work, so we can say that for it.
And if people do read this, like we said, in the beginning, I thought it was, for me, it was a little harder to get into the first, like you said, and then like by the end of the first volume, like it goes, I think there's 6 issue trades, so by the time you get to issue, I think 5, then it really starts to find its footing. Like the first issue is like, oh shit, like you get the whole he takes over the body, this and that. That's all cool. Then it gets into like this weird where he does it.
It doesn't explain to you who Shade is and why he can do what he does until well into it. Because like you're saying, like you get introduced to like him and Kathy, and then it goes right into the Kennedy stuff, and then it's after.
So it's all like, what the fuck's going on, right? And then you kind of get, well, you kind of follow him, right? He's kind of,
he can't remember either. Kind of, you kind of remember because he's amnesic in the first couple issues himself, so you kind of learn along with him like what his powers are.
And one thing about the M-Vest, too, is if they're not careful, they get caught up in the person's delusion, right? Like, they start believing that they're those characters that the person made up in their minds. Like he becomes JFK and she becomes...
Jackie O. And
they almost lose themselves in those people, right? And the same thing happens when... Like
the Normalcy Police episode, Kathy starts thinking that she's an old
housewife. Yeah.
What do they call them? Trad wives. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. I think that was one of my favorites.
It's hard to pick, man.
I know they're good. Like each one you read, you're like, oh man, that was fucked up. And then you read the next one, it's like, oh yeah, that was pretty fucked up too. Like the hippie one's super good too.
I'd have to say the movie star one was kind of might be the weakest one in my opinion. Like the Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still fun and everything, but I didn't like the weird characters as much in it. You know what I mean? Because like the weird one with the wife, and she thinks that with the, I don't know if you got that far yet. My bad.
I don't know. Anyway, I'm definitely going to keep reading it. Yeah. It's fun. Like it's really found its footing, and in the beginning it was like, oh, okay, whatever. Now I just want to, you don't want to put it down. You just want to keep reading to get to the next part. And like now, like Kathy's kind of as a character has kind of come into her own, and so has Shade, and now they have this kind of great banter back and forth, and it's really found its footing. And now I think I could see why it ran for, like, as it developed, how it's getting better by the end of the second volume. Like I'm not surprised it ran for 70 issues,
right? And it has some really good changes ups. I mean, it's not like this the whole 70 issues, but I'll let you know that before you get too far into it. But I think that it keeps its heart. I think that like the character Shade really kind of comes into his own, kind of really becomes a really kind of cool character, because I like the way he writes his weird kind of unambivalent main characters. Like in the book we're going to talk about later, I find a lot of parallels between the Orphan and Shade. They're kind of, they come off as like these really sweet dudes, but like then they just will flip a switch and be a total.
When it's time, exactly, yeah. Like when he gets angry, he really, Shade. And man, I dug. Like I told you, man, if I gotta find a jacket like his. I dig his jacket. I love it. That long and trench coat, leopard kind of print. Well, is it leopard print or is it just circles? I think it's just circles.
It's kind of just like it's based off of like some kind of tribal animal print, but like it's just its own kind of surreal design.
Yeah.
I can't
it's
find
cool.
a picture of it.
Yeah, but I dig his like trench coat. It's kind of like very fashion forward. It's cool. Like
definitely new wavy too. Like I could definitely see like the dudes.
Like it would definitely be something that would be super in style today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a little bit before this book came out, I could see like the Flock of Seagulls guy rocking the coat, Or like I said, we were talking about it, like kind of also reminded me of Corey Haim's clothes in the movie Lost.
Yeah, Book. That's what you're saying. Yeah, a little more flamboyant, but yeah. Yeah. No, but Shade definitely especially when you get into that second volume with the different stories and stuff. Definitely fun stuff. Yeah. Next up, man, we got our second book from Peter Milligan.
We're gonna be talking about the X-Force run. Not quite getting into the ecstatics, but yeah, we're going to be talking
the birth of the ecstatics, basically. Yeah.
And yeah, I absolutely love this issue. I remember when it came out, and I got into it mostly because of Allred's art, but like I was learning to love Peter Milligan a lot, but like this really kind of blew me away. Just the way they pull the carpet out from under your feet. They really make you believe that this guy is the main character. Zeitgeist, he's the shit.
Yeah.
The Cyclops of the team. Nothing's gonna take this guy away from us. And
yeah,
spoilers.
Spoilers. Yeah, full spoilers. Guts all over the place. Yeah. So then the main characters become two characters. You're like, yeah, is it Ty? Is that his name?
Tyke Alucard, the anarchist, and Edie Sawyer, the You Go girl.
Yeah. Well, the Edie kind of seems like she's an established player on the team and stuff. And Tyke is just introduced in that first issue. He just joins the team in that issue, and all of a sudden, he's the only survivor left, along with Edie, right? The only two survivors of the X-Force team, which is pretty funny. Yeah.
And then we get introduced to kind of our new team leader.
Yeah.
And
that's 2 or 3 issues in.
That's the second issue.
That's the second issue. Yeah, they do cover a lot of ground in that first issue, eh? It's crazy.
Yeah. So he's originally called Mr. Sensitive, but like he changes his name to the Orphan because the first mission they go on, it's kind of a play on the Ilian Gonzalez episode that happened in America. I don't know if you remember that, the Cuban kid whose dad was hiding him, and like they needed to take him back to Cuba, and there was kind of like a big thing where like people were trying to keep him here. Like he kind of played on that a little bit, but at the same time, it's the super mutant that like his body just makes enzymes that heal things. You know what I mean? And all the governments want this kid to basically experiment on and make medicines, and this gets our team into trouble, but basically like he doesn't let them. He saves the kid, and that's kind of why he wants to be called the Orphan, because he strikes a chord with the child.
Yeah, and it goes against the team. What would you call him? Coach?
The coach, who's kind of like
kind of like
Professor X, but like he is what he's supposed to be. He's a coach, you know what I mean? It's like this just one-armed. I guess he was a mutant, and like the arm that's missing was like where all his power was. I guess I forget what they called him, but like even Wolverine said he was kind of a badass back in the day. That's what I love about this book, is like they introduce all these characters that like are brand new to this book, but like they're supposedly been these characters that have been around the X-Men forever, and like Wolverine's known for decades, like the Dupe and like the Coach and stuff.
No, that's what I was asking you, because I was reading it and like Dupe's in there, and like then Wolverine shows up and he and Dupe are talking like they've known each other forever. So then I was asking you after I read that issue, I was like, because I know there's the 2-issue series with Wolverine and Dupe, and I was like, did they put that out before, or did that come out after? And you're like, no, it came out after. So like I was like, oh, okay, so like I'm not missing anything here. And you're like, no, man, like this is just the way Dupe was introduced to the whole X-Men universe. I was like, okay, just making sure that I need context right now, like, but yeah, so
basically the breakdown of this team is like the X-Force name was bought by like this tech bro billionaire Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg type character.
Yeah.
And, he's basically running them as
for hire.
Yeah,
heroes for hire type thing.
Yeah, but they're as big in the media as they are. Like their media presence is more important than actually them doing missions. So they're kind of like, they're not quite reality shows. Like this book came out before reality TV became like super, but like they have pay-per-view specials, and like they have like all these different restaurant chains named after them and stuff like that. Hyper media aware like mutant group, and basically like they have all these reserve teams. Everybody's always trying to be in the next X-Force, because I guess even before we got introduced to this particular team, they had a very high mortality rate, which funny enough, keeps up through the book because like the second team we get, I think most of the characters in that only last about what, maybe 3 issues.
Well, no, I don't even think so. I think they're probably introduced at the end of one issue. I don't even know if they make it through the whole other issue, but like they kill off like at least one or two characters almost every issue for the first what 5 issues about
Yeah, it,
four or five anyway. Like you said, they go through, then they have to sit down and have their meetings and watch. They have like this what home theater where they sit down and watch reels on heroes to try to pick the replacements for the heroes that have fallen. Yeah,
and then that second team annihilation is kind of goes into like my favorite part of the book, and that's when like they are recruiting the third team, and we meet the Spike and Lacuna, who
Lacuna.
she's
Yeah,
actually not even really in the running. She's just this kind of pampered rich girl that really wants to be an X-Force because she thinks it'll piss her parents off. Everything
yeah,
that she does, she wants to piss her parents off, but like they refuse to get mad at her. Like there's this one scene where she's trying to make this scene about like them having this exquisite dinner, and she's like, "I'm not eating this. I'm going to give it to the poor." And her parents are like, "All right, honey, we'll grab our coats and we'll drive you down to
yeah.
West Hollywood so you can get this food." And she's just always pissed because like nothing makes her parents mad at her.
No, they're like overly supportive of everything, and she's just trying to get them mad, and they're just like, "Okay, we support you on everything," and it just drives her crazy. Yeah, it's funny that too. That was a two-parter story, and that's probably two of my favorite. And when I talked to you about it, you're like, "Yeah, it's two of my favorites too." Like the Lacuna storyline was pretty friggin' funny.
Also, because how she tries to get their attention, she just pranks them.
Pulls pranks. Yeah, she's pranking them because she can freeze time, right? So what she does is like freezes time and like puts a drink in one's hand, changes a hat on another, and like constantly pranking them. And like what the hell's going on? Before she even tells them who she is, she starts pranking them, and we don't know as a reader either. Like there's these weird things happening in the panels that aren't explained. You're like, okay, did Allred like kind of fuck up and like make a mistake and draw it wrong, and then come to find out it's this character who's pranking the heroes, which is I thought was it made me laugh. I actually chuckled quite a bit in these the two Lacuna issues were pretty damn good.
And then for
Yeah.
some really good wholesomeness, we get this really great Edie Sawyer origin issue that's drawn by the one and only
Mm.
the late Darwin Cook. Man, it just I adore his work, man. Like I really miss the man. Like, and it's kind of cool because like him and Allred kind of had a history working together before this. They worked on Catwoman with Ed Brubaker.
Mm.
Allred did the inking for Darwin Cook's art in that, and really nice book. Really,
Yeah, that
so
was a fun issue. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty.
And one of my other favorite issues was the book leading up right after the Lacuna one was the
Oh
silent comic, the Dupe issue.
yeah, the enough said.
Enough said. Yeah, that's like total surreal, kind of like Shade style. You know, Peter's going back to the well, going into this surreal, like going into the mind, and like Allred really gets to flex his artistic talents in this one, drawing some crazy ass pages. That was a really fun one, really fun. And I dig these silent comics like that. It's so much fun to check out those books.
Yeah, you really get to see just how well a creative team can work with each other. And I don't know, like this book has like a lot of Milligan snark and gruffness to it, but it's also got a lot of Allred's whimsy. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can see that you can tell that like he gave input to Milligan, and like it was allowed in the book. Milligan, I see. I think that like he let Mike and Laura kind of tell a little bit of the story because there was a lot of Allred style to the book, which I kind of really thought was fun and kind of like mixed it up as a Peter Milligan fan. Like I kind of
And I was fun. It was funny because before we started reading it, you were like, "Oh, a lot of people like fans were butthurt or mad about this because it wasn't like the Liefeld X-Force. And then as I'm reading it, where they have that press conference and the old members of X-Force show up, and they're like, "You're not X-Force," and they have that rumble at the press conference where they're fighting each other about you can't call yourself X-Force and this and that. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious when I read that. After talking to you before I started reading it, it was really good. I got a good laugh out of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, in the issues that you read on, did they have any of the back matter in the issues that you read on?
No, because I read it on
Kindle,
the
right?
no, I read it on the Marvel Unlimited. And Marvel Unlimited doesn't do trades. They just do, for some reason, unless I haven't looked properly on it, they don't have trades. They just have all the single issues. It seems like Marvel Unlimited is just all their books, but in single issue form.
In the back matter of the issues, they used to have open letter for them, and yeah, it was the editor was kind of a dick. He really antagonized the hell out of the fans. But like, yeah, there would be a lot of people writing in like, "Look at what you did to X-Force. X-Force used to be like this really hard hitting book about these mutant teens that didn't know where they fit in the world, and like, what is this now? Like, they're just like media obsessed. Like, who's gonna relate to that?" And I'm just like, I don't know, like just.
Like another book that today, yeah, definitely is relatable today. That definitely,
I mean, this was super ahead of its time. Like, I never, especially from a Marvel book, like this was from a weird small era of Marvel that I called the Vertigo era, because at this time they were trying to rebound the ship, and like they were throwing anything at the wall to make it stick, and they literally did just go hire a bunch of people from Vertigo and come over and have them work, and it resulted in some really kind of weird fun books. You got the Tangled Web of Spider-Man, which had everybody from like Glenn Fabry and Garth Ennis to Paul Pope working on it. Then you also had like John Nye Reber writing Captain America, which was really moody, which was insane, but like it was fun, you know what I mean? It was shit you wouldn't expect. And then this was probably the most known book of that era, of that style, and like I'm not kidding, like it really aside from having toned down language, like this book goes all over the place, and it goes hard. Like our character Mr. Sensitive, every day after superheroing, he goes home and plays Russian roulette. And that's not too out of place for like a mainstream comic now, but like for a Marvel book, like a mainline Marvel book, not Max, like straight 616 book, to have a character put a revolver to their nugget, that wasn't seen at the time, man. Like,
yeah, and they definitely cover just issues that are still relevant today. You know,
yeah,
so.
it goes into you know, some what people would call identity politics, I guess. But like, I think that they're very warranted. I think that they go some fun places. There's definitely some LGBTQ characters in the book that push boundaries on purpose and to make a scene. And I like the way they kind of play on the angle of that from both sides, the way that it's perceived. Of course, it's a lot softer.
It's not heavy-handed. Like they bring it up, but it's not heavy-handed. They're not beating you over the head with it. It's very, very skillfully and artfully weaved into the story. It's not forced. It definitely fits. It flows. I mean, it's fantastic the way he did it.
Especially since it's supposed to be characters that are just hungry for the spotlight, that are, you know what I mean? Like, I think that it all balances out and plays very well with each other. I also really, really love the way he kind of deals with race relations, and it only goes further in the book when Venus de Milo shows up, another character of color. Like, that's in the Ecstatics run. You'll get to that soon, Joey. But like, I really enjoy the way that they played the character Spike and Tyke Alucard off of each other. I thought that was something that you don't really see told in comics too often, or in media in general. And it is a real thing that I've seen with very competitive males. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And done in an entertaining and fun way. You know, like it's a lot of the subject matter, like you said, is serious and heavy, but it's never not fun or entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, the characters are all selfish, absorbed dicks, but like they found a way to make them all very charming and likable. I mean, like I really like all the characters. I mean, I really am happy that like Ty Gallagher, the anarchist, and like all them characters are being written again. That's another great thing about covering this book now is that this team is back alive in Marvel Comics. You got
Excellence, yeah.
So
yeah, it was really fun. I really enjoyed this, and it's a book that I was looking forward to reading for a while, and then we had the perfect opportunity, got an excuse to read it, and I can't wait to start breaking into the ecstatics part. Yeah, so now, like, and even in the story when they're starting to, because X-Force comes to an end and they kick off the ecstatics book, and it's funny how they're sick of like being associated with X-Force and the X-Force name, so they're like, we got to come up with a new name, and yeah, it's fun. It's just, like
kind of mirrors what we're going through personally ourselves, since we're
yeah, we're gonna change things up a bit. Yeah.
The show's going to be altered in the near future, so yeah, it was kind of, me and Joe had a couple jokes about like that, because
when we're reading it, yeah, for sure, yeah. It was fun. I really enjoyed it though, and I mean, if you're a fan of Allred's art, man, he's got some beautiful stuff in there. And like you said, Darwin Cook comes in, does an issue, and who's the other artist that comes in?
Duncan Fagrito. You got
Fagrito does a fantastic job on his issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does the actual last issue of the X-Force run. Mm-hmm. In the actual Ecstatics, I know Paul Pope does an issue. I know Darwin Cook does some more issues in it. So yeah, there's a lot of other guest artists in the upcoming stuff too. So I don't know how available it is in print. I'm pretty sure they should be reprinting it, because since they're running new arcs, you know what I mean, they should have the old stuff available for people. There's of course the old omnibus, which is what I own and how I read it, and it's expensive as hell due to the out of print demons.
Yeah, I don't know if Marvel does that on purpose to try to force people to get onto their reading their app.
How much do you pay to read those on the app?
It's a monthly fee, right? So it's a subscription.
Oh, that's right. That just comes off of as anything that's like 3 months old, right? You can just read for free.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's after 3 months, the single issues go up, and I think that's probably why the whole site's set up in single issue format.
Well, not for free, but like with the general subscription.
With the subscription, yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah. How much is that? $8?
Yeah, it must be around that, because I think I pay like $12 Canadian. So yeah, I'd say it's about that. Woo! The complete collection volume 1 is going for $120 on, if you go like, so yeah,
it's worth it. I don't know. I mean, I'm not kidding. Like it's.
But that volume 2 seems to be easily available. I think it's just the first volume that seems to be harder to find.
Okay.
Because volume 2 is available here on Amazon, and volume 3 isn't though.
Okay, so they don't.
Oh, but that's a complete collection. Okay, volume 3 of the regular trade, but the complete collection, volume 2, still seems to be readily available, but the first one seems to be out of print. Yeah, unless you want to read it in French or some other foreign language, you can get it in Italian or French.
I mean, it looks great on digital form, like the screenshot that you clipped from
the Marvel. Yeah,
looks really good. I mean, it looks as good as it does on the glossy paper of the omnibus that I have. So, like, yeah, if you don't mind reading Digicomics, I'd say definitely hop on that Marvel Unlimited train. And this has a pretty decent run. Like the X-Force ran, what is it, from 126 to 139?
116 to 129.
116 to 129.
Yeah.
Derp. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing I couldn't find on there was the that was in the complete collection or the omnibus is the Brotherhood #9.
Oh, you didn't get to read that?
No, I didn't get around to reading it, but it wasn't on the Marvel Unlimited. That's a hard one to find, actually.
Yeah. I never
Yeah,
actually really
so
heard the series except for that issue. It's really funny, and when I looked it up to see the how the series went, it was actually a pretty serious, like kind of hardcore series about like a terrorist group of like the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants and stuff.
mhm.
Like the fact that it ends the way that it does with that issue 9 with the X Force killing them all. Like it's kind of just really weird that like Marvel decided the editors were like, how about if you like end your super serious like terrorist comic with them getting killed by the fucking joke
By
team
the yeah, yeah.
with the floating booger cameraman? Yeah,
But you can get it if you get the digital, because you can get the digital version of the omnibus on Kindle. It's available on Kindle. So I think that's probably the only way you can get the Brotherhood #9 is through buying it digitally. Probably. Do they still sell shit on Comixology, or is that completely gone now?
I don't know, man. You know that better than I do. I only have a few things on Comixology.
Yeah, well, it became completely unusable for anyone that was outside of the U.S. So I don't even know if it's even how it works for you guys there.
But
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. Mike Allred art, you know what I mean? Like you can't go wrong. And like this is his I believe his first big paying gig.
Yeah. So I mean, kudos to Peter Milligan for writing a extremely fun and yeah, Dead Girl. Is that
Yeah,
her name? Dead Girl?
yeah.
Yeah. She's another member that comes in later. She's a really fun character too. Yeah. So
Oh,
Peter Milligan, man, a great book. Like, I mean, Shade is definitely a heavier book, definitely more serious. But man, if you want, you know, X Force definitely, or Ecstatics, which it becomes later on, is definitely fun and entertaining read. But it still has a lot of those same tackles a lot of those issues, right?
yeah,
Some serious issues, but in a much more fun and entertaining way than, let's say, Shade is a lot more heavy
yeah.
in subject matter. Yeah.
And Shade's a sledgehammer with its subject matter. Like
Yeah.
even like Grant Morrison and like Neil Gaiman were a little more lighthearted and light on their messaging than PD was back in the day, man.
In Shade, yeah, for sure.
Like
Yeah.
those guys were like, I don't know, like pop punk and melodic hardcore, and like Peter Milligan is just like straight like grindcore, like shit, the changing man. He's just like pig squealing at you.
Yeah. So, man, both books were great. Just know that Shade, the first volume, it really finds its footing by the end, and then the second volume is fantastic.
That's what
And
I think. It starts off wonderful. Like
yeah,
I'm pretty sure, like getting right into it because like the opening story arc is just
great. Yeah, that's good.
very inventive, very creative. Like
Mm-hmm.
the character dynamics and the way they work together and against each other. Like I'd never really read anything like it before or since. Like I haven't really seen like anybody rip that storyline off, which is
Yeah.
funny enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and another cool thing is if you like Ecstatics, there's actually a lot of other really good Peter Milligan written X-Men comics. He actually wrote, I believe, Uncanny X-Men for a while. He did the whole run when Storm was married to Black Panther. He covered all that and was kind of in charge of that. So like he's pretty well rounded at his X-Men stuff. So like he did like the official stuff and like he also kind of did the Wiggity Wild stuff with X-Force. So
Yeah, he did the. I think he wrote the Wolverine dupe story, the 2-issue thing as well.
oh yeah, and there's also a 6-issue Dead Girl miniseries.
Miniseries that he wrote as well. Yeah, so yeah, so I mean, he definitely found a niche for himself in the X-Men universe with these wacky characters and. Mm,
Yeah, I mean, I think this book was kind of a sleeper hit. I know that like critics and like indie comic fans loved it, but like I don't think it hit really with the Marvel audience at the time. And I think it was a book that kind of caught on after it was over.
mhm.
Part, but that's the good cool thing, man. Like Marvel doesn't have very many cult classics, and like this is officially like a straight up cult classic in the Marvel lineup. Which, I mean, DC has way more of them in my opinion. So
Yeah, but fantastic. I couldn't. Both, I recommend both, and especially the Ecstatics. Like this is Yeah, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it.
Right. So on Friday we'll be back. We're gonna have our music episode. We're gonna be talking about our favorite albums of the year so far. We're gonna have Pew Pew Kid and Maxime back on, right? And
yeah, Adrian will be with us as well.
Yeah, Spider Boy.
Yeah.
And that should be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking music. And then the Tuesday after that, we're going to be talking about some Tsutomu Nihei. One of the Marvel books I absolutely adore is finally back in print, Wolverine Snicked. We'll be speaking about that. And we'll also be talking about the first volume of Blam.
Which is, you can read for free on Kindle.
And we'll get way more into that on next week. On Tuesday.
I think the whole series might be free, or at least the first 6 or 7 volumes. I don't know how many it goes to.
If it's the master editions, there's 7 of them in total, but there's a 0. So it's 1 through 6 with a 0 book.
Okay, so I think they're all available to read on Kindle. Yeah.
Which is cool because each, if it's the master editions, each one's like 300 pages. They're massive. They're really cool. So like I'm not gonna say you're gonna have your reading cut out for you because it's kind of a very visual comic, but
fast paced, yeah.
But yeah, there'll be tons of it, and I'm pretty sure you'll dig it. So join us Tuesday. We're gonna kind of be talking about some manga finally, or manga, depending on how you like to say. And, yeah, we're gonna be talking about my favorite mangaku, Mr. Tsutomu Nihei. So yeah, join us then. Until then, take it easy. Happy 4th of July, and yeah.